I'm Nadine Matheson, host of The Conversation, and I know you're keen to get on with the show and watch my conversation with my guest, Alison Larkin. But before we do, I have one small request. Can you please hit the subscribe button? You might already have done so, but if you haven't, hit the subscribe button now. Takes a second, less than a second. Right, thank you very much, and let's get on with the show. Alison Larkin, welcome to The Conversation.
It's so exciting to be here.
I'm excited to have you here because, Alison, I keep saying this all the time now. We were talking way before we
Yeah.
officially started recording, and you were telling me all about how you ended up in the States. So you want to tell? Do you want to tell this
Tell your
story?
bit.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was adopted as a baby from Washington, D.C., because my parents were living in America at the time. And then I was raised in England and East Africa and West Africa. And then I was living in London. And I was actually had been to drama school to Webber Douglas. And I knew I wanted to be a playwright, but I knew the best playwrights had been actors first. So I was acting in plays. And I was in my mid-20s. And it's relevant to the book I've just written because
Mm.
at that time, whenever I was on a date with a guy, I would find myself on a red alert, waiting for the object of my affections to leave me, which they never did. I left them before they could even think about it. But I began to think it was like the key to dealing with a fear of abandonment is to date people you don't like. So if they do leave you, it doesn't
You,
matter.
and you're never surprised, are you? Because you're like, it was going to happen anyway.
It was going to happen, and if I found a man particularly attractive, I would walk immediately in the opposite direction. And I knew it wasn't logical because there were my friends falling in love naturally and getting married to wonderful people and not feeling insecure or untrusting at all. And I'd had a really privileged, happy upbringing in a really loving family. And I thought, this just, come on. So I began to wonder if maybe if I found out that my birth mother, it wasn't so much that she didn't want to keep me, but that she simply could not, then maybe that would free me up to live and love like normal
Yeah.
people.
Did you always know you was adopted? Like, did your
Yes.
parents tell you from early on?
As soon as I asked where babies came from, they
Oh,
told me that I'd been collected from an adoption agency in a wood panelled station wagon. So I thought that's where babies came from, wood panelled station wagon.
not a
But yeah,
stalk.
they told me I was adopted. But at that time, nobody knew anything. It was closed adoption. So the birth parents didn't know where the baby'd gone. The adoptive parents had no idea about the identity of the birth mother. And I actually, when I was 16, I had found non identifying information about Alison's biological parents. And I said to my mum, "Can I open this?" She said, "Oh, yes, of course you can, darling." And I opened it and it said something like, I don't know, father, 5'11", charismatic, relinquished baby because didn't want to ruin father's career,
Oh, it
mother,
had that information in it.
oh yeah, 5'5", born in blank, educated at blank and musical. And when it then said didn't want to ruin father's political career, I knew obviously I was a Kennedy, right? Why else would I be
Obviously.
given? Obviously, I began to think, oh, I'm a Kennedy. So I'm very mysterious. And then it was in the back of my mind, but I didn't do anything about it because you couldn't. And then in my mid-20s, when I was running into this repetition of the same thing,
Yeah.
I wanted to fall in love and I wanted to get rid of what I thought was probably the obstacle to it. So, long story, but I found her. And then I found my birth father. And then I moved to New York and became a stand up comic because what else do you do? And then
That would not have
fiancé.
been the path I would have anticipated you would have taken.
I was already I was already doing plays in England and I was writing plays. And I'd actually started doing a little cabaret sketch kind of group. But I was in New York. I'd just met my birth mother. I'd met all the relatives from down south.
What was that like for
Well,
them?
the long lost daughter has returned.
Oh my god.
I know. And there I was, just really wanting to find out who I came from, who I
Yeah.
looked like, who I sounded like. Where did all this creative energy come from? Because I had a lot. And I had the most wonderful English family, but they were very tidy and they were very neat. And my dad was trained as an accountant. My mum was a housewife. And there was I, this very untidy kid that was writing plays and running
Yeah.
around in bare feet and had all this energy, which was actually, it turned out to be pretty American in some ways. Because you know how it can be in England. Sometimes I will say I had a joke in my stand-up act, which is the reason that I stayed in America is because in America, people would say, go for it. Whereas in England, it would be, oh, I
You
wouldn't
sure?
do that if I were you. And
I think that's probably why I do ask, what was your family like when I'm having these conversations if you come from creative families? Because I've always think in the back of my mind, like that creativity, that need to make something, it has to come from somewhere. And I think more often than not, they'll say, yeah, that there's someone in their family who did have some kind of creative streak. So I suppose if you're in a family where there's nothing, where it's quite maybe I don't know if rigid is the right word, but it is quite rigid and structured and I say academic in a sense of like accountancy, and everyone has
yeah,
their very well defined roles. You're going to be looking at yourself, going, where did this come from?
yes, exactly. And you're talking about the nature nurture debate too,
Yeah,
because it was. Now, having said that, my parents loved the theatre. So I think creativity is a gene, and the way it's expressed will depend on what you're
mm,
exposed to. But I loved theatre, and I loved singing, and I loved musicals. And my dad liked musicals. But when I said I'd like to be a writer to my dad, he said, "Why?" And I said, "Dad, I like writing." And he said, "I like playing golf. But I don't delude myself I can make a
oh God.
living at it." And then when I told my American birth mother that I wanted to be a writer, she said, "Oh, thank God. Because in our family, anyone who even thinks about having an office job gets fired. Our people don't like to be caged."
We always say my dad's side of the family, the saying is we don't work for people.
Oh,
So
that's right.
you'll find that it gets to a point if you do have a job, you are employed. At some point, most of us on my dad's side, we do become self-employed. And
Well,
the saying is we don't work for people.
you're entrepreneurs.
Yeah, very
I
much a real life.
digress.
It's like,
But
did you have your adopted family? Do you have brothers and sisters, or was it just you?
I do. Yeah, I have two brothers and I miss them terribly. And they live in England and they have family in England. I have cousins and I have so many friends in England. And what was so fantastic was last year I came to do my new one woman show, which is called
Mm,
Grief a Comedy at the Soho Theatre in London. And then it went to Edinburgh. And I got to see all my old mates, all my friends from before I went away. Obviously, I'd been to England from time to time, obviously once a year to see my parents, but I'd never really had a chance to spend time with really good friends for an extended period of time.
yeah.
And it's just was fantastic. And I'm actually coming back because the thing we haven't told your listeners is is that the show. My first, okay, I'll tell you this because it's relevant to what we were talking about. So I became a stand-up comic in New York. And the reason I did it because I didn't have anybody else to talk to. So I found audiences in New York and I'd stand up and I'd say things like, I just found out my birth mother, and I'd talk about it. And I'd say things like, actually, I think everyone should be adopted because that way you can meet your birth parents when you're old enough to cope with them. And
Um,
exactly. You're older than not. And I talked about what had just happened, but I did it through comedy. And then people would say, "Oh my God, was that really true about your birth mother?" And I'd say, yes. And they'd say, "What was it like meeting your real parents?" And for me, my real parents were the ones who'd raised me. So I thought, okay,
yeah.
how can I express this? And this is why I write. Unlike, I've been looking you up. I'm so in awe of the number of
Oh,
books you've written. I've gone, oh my God,
thank
this
you.
woman's amazing. And you're a lawyer. I go, bloody hell, she's amazing. No, seriously,
Thank you
amazing.
very much.
Yeah, and I really don't like writing at all. I'm like
But you
Dorothy
wanted to
Parker.
write.
I had to, because I had to show people why someone from a very happy adoptive family might need to find the truth about the
Yeah.
people she came from. And I had to, because I was really pissed off with the fact that in popular fiction and in movies and on telly, adopted people were always portrayed as either eternally damaged victims or serial
Mm.
killers. And I thought,
Sorry.
this isn't true. It's
That's
not
such
fair.
extreme. I thought you was gonna say something like really needy and just
Yeah,
always
that's
looking
it.
for something
Yeah,
unstable. I wasn't expecting Alison to go, they were serial killers. It's such
they
extreme.
are. Any of those horror books, the scary books
Yeah.
about the serial killer in the basement's always been adopted or abandoned. And I'm going, but wait a second here. Steve Jobs was adopted.
Was he?
So was President. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Didn't
yeah.
know Steve Jobs
So
was
was
adopted.
President Ford. So Nancy Reagan, not that that's necessarily the greatest role model, but there are a lot of incredible people who were adopted who've done amazing things that, and I just thought, come on. So I wrote, first of all, this show in which I played myself, my English adoptive mother, and my American birth mother, who was her diametrical opposite in every single way. And then it went to Hollywood. I got picked up by like the Hollywood people. And suddenly I'm being flown in a plane, a first class plane, which I'd never been in before, by Jim Henson Productions to star in my own sitcom in LA and with ABC and
What?
CBS. Oh, yes, I know. Maybe should have mentioned this in the bio or something. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But so
No,
I'm in
you did
Hollywood.
definitely was not in your bio.
Yeah. And so that happened. And then it happened again. And I had all these extraordinary things happening in Hollywood. And then I had kids. And then I thought, oh, I got married to a man, a very nice man who was very good at cleaning the kitchen. And I had these children. And then suddenly, and for the first time in my life, I fell in love. And I thought, oh my goodness, I can't raise them in LA, where the overriding philosophy is I may not be much, but I'm all I ever think about. So I moved them to New Jersey. And then my husband lost all my money. And I then moved as a single mum. Oh no, wait. Before that, I wrote a book. That's right. Simon and Schuster. Like I saw you had a bidding war with your
Yeah,
book. Because and I had one because I turned when the kids were born. I thought I don't want to go on stage because I want to hang out with them. They still want to
yeah.
hang out with me. And I knew from Hollywood that if they will change everything. If you have a show, you then have about 18 people giving you notes. Gail Parent, who wrote a show called Golden Girls, who co wrote my show with me the second time, said, Allison, if you want to write what you want, write a book. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll try that. So I wrote The English American, which became a bestseller over here. It was published by Simon and Schuster, and it had an authentic adopted heroine as opposed to an adopted victim at its center.
Yeah.
And it was autobiographical fiction, but I took great liberties with the truth because it was a lot more fun.
Do you think
And
sorry,
yeah,
But
No,
do you think any of this stuff would have happened if you hadn't gone on that journey to find your birth mother?
I don't
So, like, the
know.
show and the stand-up, the
Well,
writing a
probably not.
book.
Because I was on the cusp of. I'd had a meeting with Rob Grant and Doug Naylor, who created Red Dwarf, at the BBC. And I'd written a play, and I think I might have had a writing career in the UK.
Yeah,
But when I did this, it was, to be honest, I jest about it with you now, 30 plus years later, but it was completely overwhelming.
I'm
And
not
I think,
surprised.
yeah,
'Cause listening to you and I'm like, "What?" Because it
yeah,
wasn't like you just got on a plane, met your birth parents, and then you just got a job. It's like you did all the things that I think anyone working in the creative industries, whether you are the writer or an actor, all of these things, you did all the things that people dream
well,
about.
do they?
Yeah, absolutely. Who wouldn't want a show? The
I
right
did, that's true.
Yeah,
What I was most excited about. You should have one, by the way.
a show.
I what? You've got your podcast. I'm thinking
Got my podcast.
television.
I need a
I'm seeing series, but anyway, we digress. But I am. But anyway, so I think for me, it was that I used to get into trouble at the back of the class for doing silly voices and cartoon voices and talking like this. And because it was fun for me. And when I
Yeah,
got to New York and LA, I made a living at it. So they were paying me money to be in cartoons. So I would do cartoon characters. I played Pauline in Pauline's Paris Pyramid because I could do a total American accent and they didn't know I was actually British. And I did a whole bunch. There was a television series over here called The Wonder Pets, and I'd get to voice a hedgehog and I'd get to voice all these different characters. So for me, that was what was most exhilarating because I preferred voice work because
yeah.
but didn't have to brush your hair. The whole unless you're on a podcast with you, in which case
Yeah, you
apparently.
need to do
But here's
yeah, funny from the neck up. Your
and
what was your show called?
the untitled Alison Larkin sitcom.
What was that
But
like?
my show.
I just can't imagine what it would be like to say to leave here, to go to whatever reason I was going to the States and then end up with my own show.
It didn't get on the air,
I know,
remember?
but you still went through that whole
I did.
process and it's just and it wasn't like you planned for it.
No, I really didn't.
Yeah,
And here's the link with what's going on now is I when I did the one woman show which led to all of that, it was pretty authentic. It was funny.
yeah,
But it came from here because I wanted to bring the audience with me on the journey. But once it goes to Hollywood, it changes. So what happened? What happened was I wrote this novel, this Simon and Schuster. It was very successful, and then I just looked at my kids and I thought, okay, I've never lived with anyone who's a genetic relative. I was fascinated to have two children related to me who I understood on an intuitive and deep animal
mm,
level. And I thought, I don't want to be in the entertainment industry right now because it'll be a distraction. Plus, I just wanted to hang out with them while they wanted to hang out with
yeah.
me doing the really important things like scraping the banana out from between the laptop keys. So I left Hollywood. I was actually going to have my own talk show by this stage, and I just made this decision. Everything said to me, "Don't do it. Go write a book instead," which I did. It did well. And then when my kids were 6 and 9, how old are they? 7 and 9. I found out that my husband, who I had married because I knew I could trust him not to run off with another woman, had mismanaged all my money and all the family finances, not because he was a bad man, but because he didn't know how to do maths, which is actually quite important if you're running your own business.
Well, I think it all you need to
And he,
know
ha-
find
yeah,
someone who can.
and I didn't trust him anymore. I didn't trust his judgment because he'd lied to me about it, and I we
Did
hadn't
you
been
lose
sleeping.
everything?
Yeah. So I then thought, oh God, what to do? I know. I'll leave him, take my two children, and move to Western Massachusetts into voluntary rural exile. And I was looking out my window, wondering what I was going to do when the phone rings. And it was Audible. And they said, "Is this Alison Larkin, the writer comedian?" And I said, "Used to be." And they said, "This is Audible. If you will promise us 15 audiobook narrations a year, we will set you up with a home recording studio so you can earn a living as a single mom in the middle of the countryside where there is no other work except for writing, which you don't seem to be doing much of.
Did they actually
Can
say this to you?
Yes. Can you do an Australian accent?" And I said, "No problem, mate." And then they said, "How about Scottish?" And I said, "Absolutely. I could narrate sweeping Scottish romances with titles like Mad, Bad, and Dangerous in Plaid." And then they said, "Can you do a Brooklyn Mail?" And I said, "Why, certainly. Go fuck yourself." And and then
Oh
they
my.
they and then they showed up at my house, and they
Just like
showed
that,
me.
out of the blue.
Well, like about 2 weeks later.
Yeah, but
But I had been known before then, but I was
I know,
hiding. Like,
but so
yeah.
even the fact
Oh,
they
no,
called
wait,
you
what?
on their
No, you're right. No, what's true also that I forgot is I had narrated the audiobook of The English American,
right.
and they had heard that. And I think at one point I'd narrated the Swallows and Amazons series. So they knew I was a narrator. And yeah, so they found me. And they wanted somebody who could do both English and American accents for a particular book at the time. And I think that wasn't something everyone could do. So there I am, literally in my closet, because the quietest place in my house was my clothes closet. So the clothes acted as a buffer to the
Yeah,
sound.
soundproofing.
So I'd started narrating audiobooks, and I'm a bit like you and your family. Because what was perfect about the job was it meant I didn't have to do any writing. I could just read other people's writing, which I much prefer.
Mm,
And then when my kids came home from school, I could shut the door on the studio. Because I don't know how, when you're writing, when I'm writing, I can't think about anything else. My mind is in the book and I can't do practical things. That's why I'd married my husband, because he was very good at the practical things.
yeah.
But I didn't have that anymore. And I thought, I don't want to leave one of my children on top of the car, or I want to just make sure, not that they were older by then, but I thought, I need to focus on them. So with audiobook narration, I could shut the door at 3 o'clock and then really give them my attention. And then when they went to bed, I'd be narrating again. And I was doing well. And then, just like you and your family, I thought to myself, wait a second, what if I was to produce my own audiobook and figure out how to have my do that? And somebody had said, listen, Alison, by then I was narrating for all the publishers, Penguin, Macmillan, Harper, all of them. And somebody said, they're using your name to sell books. Why don't you use your name to sell
Yeah.
audiobooks? So then I thought, ooh, what a good idea. So I narrated Pride and Prejudice, not expecting it to sell. And it really did. And then I set up my own audiobook company, which is called Alison Larkin Presents, because I thought if I call it that, then Alison Larkin can present whatever she wants.
I just
Yeah,
like listening to you, and I'm just thinking your career's mad. That's all I've got. I'm
it
just
is a bit
thinking,
mad. Well, it got
oh,
better.
it keeps getting better, but also as well, it's not some people will make a very concrete plan for themselves. They will sit and say, "This is my 5-year plan. This is where I'm going to be. This is what's gonna happen by December of this year, and this is what's gonna happen in the following April." But that doesn't seem to have been the case for you. It doesn't look that way to me. It doesn't sound that way.
No, but I'd like to know how. I have never lived that way. I've lived by following my instinct. My
Yeah.
deepest intuition has, if it says go find your birth mother, you do it. If it says write a book, you do it. If it says avoid that person, you avoid them. If it says move to the middle of nowhere with no money, it's going to be all right. you do it.
So you never had
And
any fear at all?
well, no, not from that. I was fearful that something would happen to my children. I was fearful that
Yeah.
not I wanted to give them everything I had not had as an adoptee. I wanted to make sure that I gave them all the affection and the deep understanding that, lovely though my English parents were, I did not have. So it was about them. But in terms of I never had much money. I did sometimes. I sometimes had lots of money and then it would disappear because my husband lost it. But then when I took control of my own life with the audiobook company, I kept having these hunches about books. I'd narrate Jane Eyre and it sold. And now I don't like to do all the work, so I hire other people, but that's another story. So I built the company. My kids are great. And then they go to college. And here I am with this successful audiobook company. And I'm living on my own now in the middle of the Berkshires. And I've given up on love and just assumed, well, true love is for other people, like cleaning the kitchen. I just can't do it.
You just thought it just wasn't for you. It's just like
I
you had your
just,
career, you had your children, that's your
I
focus.
just, I didn't think I'd ever meet anyone. I didn't believe in it
Even
for
when you was
me.
married?
Oh, I wasn't in love with him. No, I
No?
married him, but because he was a very nice man who was able to take control of the domestic side of life. But we were friends,
Uh,
but he wasn't interested in sex. I was, but he wasn't. We just slept separately, and I just thought, that's just, look how lucky I am. Look what I have. That's just not going to be for me.
it sounds like a 1950s American sitcom, you know, when they're in separate beds.
Oh, and British.
And yeah, British as well.
It was
Mm.
really lonely, if to be honest with you,
Yeah.
deeply lonely. But here's where the perk was, because there's always a perk in every dreadful situation. I put my passion and my energy into my comedy, into my work, and I didn't have a life outside that. And it's still the case now. But so what happened was, so I'm in this very house where from whence I speak. Is that a good sentence? From whence I
It
speak?
will do.
It will do. And I go down. Oh, someone says, why? Yeah, I'll go down to the coffee shop one day and I'm narrating great romances, Pride and Prejudice,
Mm.
just Wuthering Heights, like the great romances of this world. And I'm thinking, it's lonely. I'm lonely. I now have a recording studio, it's just you and the mic. So I go down to the coffee shop and I start to hang out there. And there's this older couple there and they are really happy together. You can just tell from looking at them. And then about 6 weeks later, I found out that he had died.
Oh.
And I plucked up the courage to say to the woman, I have avoided love my whole life because I didn't want to suffer the way you are now. Was it really worth it? And she said, yes. Was your choice to avoid love really worth it? And I said, I don't know. And then a friend of mine said, why don't you do some online dating? So I'm living, don't forget, in rural Massachusetts. So I thought, I will try. So I meet a guy who talks about himself for 3 hours straight and then tells me what a great conversationalist
Oh,
I
of course you are.
am. And then he said, then a
For
guy with
3
scrambled
hours.
eggs. A guy actually, he had something in his beard, and I realized it was actually scrambled eggs.
Oh, no, that's like the Twits, the Roald Dahl book. Remember the
Yes,
Twits?
yes,
And the only
it
reason
is.
why I know that because my brother, used to love the Twits, and there was always that bit about the scrambled egg in his beard. But
You
that was
know,
your date.
that was my date. And then I thought, what do I really want? And I put this into my show, but I thought I wanted a guy who was cheerful and funny and smart and who had a big heart and who was very kind. who I really clicked with and who I could trust deeply. And I realized nothing else was important. I didn't care how
Mm.
much money they had, who they. Anyway, so I swear to God, now this is interesting because it's about maybe as writers, we think it first, then we write it. Perhaps we're creators in our lives too. I don't know. But I go down to the local inn, which is like this famous old historic hotel at the bottom of my road, to get a New York Times. And I say to the woman, "Oh," she says, "there aren't any left." And she points over her shoulder at this man, and he's looking at me sheepishly. And he says, "I'm sorry I took the last paper." And then he's handing me his New York Times. And I look at him, and he has the most beautiful eyes. And I say to him, "Look, I only get it to do the crossword because it's so much easier than Saturdays. This is Sunday." And he said, "That's true." And we started talking, and his name was Bhima, and he was from South India. And like me, he had come to America 30 years before. He'd come to do a PhD in chemical engineering and then quit corporate America because he was so passionate about renewable energy and the need to actually do something about climate change. And we just kept laughing. There was a sort of recognition, and we went on a walk and we fell in love. And he lived an hour away in Bennington, Mass. Yeah, yeah.
No, I was gonna say, when you've been telling yourself like love's not for you, it's not gonna happen for you, you weren't even in love with your husband. What are you telling yourself when you get home that day and you've met this man and now, yeah, now you're dating?
I don't think I was thinking.
No.
I remember I had this energy inside me. There was a sort of bubble, there was an opening. And I thought, let's see what happens. And then we started to see each other. And he was from India, and I had lived in other countries. And it was such a relief to talk to somebody who wasn't American. Nothing personal on them.
The
Because,
fact you're living there.
yeah. No, well, I love them, but some of them, but not all of them.
No, yeah.
But
It's the
yeah,
outlook, isn't it? It's the fact that you have a different world view. You've experienced the world
yes.
differently and you can share that.
And he actually, I remember he said, in India and England, we have a sense of responsibility and duty, whereas in America, it's the me
Mm.
culture. And he was doing something that mattered with his life, which I admired enormously. So, anyway, the story was we fell in love with each other. And then we met each other's families. When I brought him to
Were your
Chichester,
family surprised when all
they
this
were
happened?
delighted. They were delighted because finally,
You're
I'd
in love?
never, I was in love. And my parents said, to Bhima, they said, "We've never seen her so happy." And his family, who I loved and who loved me, said, "We've never seen him so happy." We just were very happy.
So I find,
So,
you know what I find fascinating though, that going back to your ex-husband, that you were married for all this time, had children, and then your family are now saying they've never seen you this happy. It's yeah. I do find that fascinating.
why? Because there's something in your life that's akin to
No,
it.
it's the fact that they could see you living this life and know that you're not living your full true life over this long period of time. And it just, to me, I can only imagine that they must have been holding stuff in and they want to see you thrive in that way. Now that you
I think that's
are,
true.
yeah.
That's really perceptive, and I think that's true. And so we met when I took him to Chichester. The first thing my dad said, "Oh my God, you can't make this up." He puts his hand on Beamer's shoulder and he says, "I'm terribly sorry about what we did to India."
It's so British.
And then Beamer, it's just, he looks at me and he cracks up and he says,
I'm
"Oh my
surprised.
God, Alison, I love your parents." He loved them. And because they were, and Dad meant it, actually. And Beamer, and he had these long conversations. And anyway, I met his family, and during the pandemic, we decided to marry. Bhima asked me to
Mm.
marry him, and we were going to live in India and England and maybe Los Angeles because he had family in LA, and certainly base ourselves in New England where I'm now. And then suddenly, 5 days after he asked me to marry him, after a perfect day and night looking up at the stars, and the night, then at that night, Bhima actually said, he looked up at the stars through a telescope and he said, "We are all made from the stars, Alison. Every living thing comes from stardust." And he was fascinated. Came home, went to bed, and the next morning he wasn't feeling well. And it was during the pandemic. And he had a
Mm.
triple bypass when he was 49, but his doctor had said he'd be fine. And we went down to the place to have a COVID test, and I'm waiting outside by the car. And I told them, don't leave him alone. I wanted to go in, but they
Yeah.
wouldn't let me because of COVID.
Hope.
And they did leave him alone. And then when they came back, he was on the floor in cardiac arrest. And soon after
Oh.
that, he was pronounced dead. So,
Oh, Alison.
yeah. So I went numb. And then there was a Zoom funeral, and you can imagine how that went.
Yeah.
It was actually, yeah. And then I went, I curled up on my sofa. And then I think I lost a lot of weight. That was a perk.
Love that.
I didn't eat. Do you know about grief?
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing.
Uh,
I say an amazing, not in that way, but it's an amazing how your body can shut. You will still function in some way, but your body, the things you think you need to do, like to eat, it doesn't seem important. It's weird.
it's really fascinating. I don't know why. But yeah. So for me, okay. So I'd avoided love my whole life because I
Yeah,
was
and
so
then you
afraid of
get
loss.
it.
And then this happened. But then that's when this most extraordinary thing of the whole thing happened. So I'm like lying on my sofa, 5 feet away from where I am now. And one day I just could hear his voice in my head saying, "Alison, your life's short. You're alive now. How about getting into the best physical shape of your life?" So I started to run around the rivers and lakes where Bhima and I had walked. And I stopped eating sugar and I became very clean in my food. And I slept. I made sure I slept. And then about one day, I realized that the numbness had lifted. And instead of despair, I felt this extraordinary joy and energy. And I'm going, what is going on?
Stardust.
So I maybe, but so I asked Desmond Tutu because he knew my work and he was a friend of mine. He'd kept tabs on me because
Your life is
it
something
was
else.
interesting. He was amazing, and that's a whole other story. But I emailed him. I said, "Look, I don't know." I told him what had happened, and I said, "What I don't understand is what is this?" And he said, "First of all, I want you to know that I've had a word with God, and I've asked God to find you another soulmate, and she said she is on the case." And then he said, "But first, Alison, you have got to return to writing and comedy and your roots and
Had you
tell this
left it?
story."
I
Oh,
know,
yeah.
'cause
Well, I
no.
was narrating audiobooks. I was happy
Oh
doing,
god, yeah. So even during everything that had happened with your fiancé and the grief and the pandemic, were you still working on the audiobooks, or had you just
oh,
shut
yeah.
away
Oh,
from all
yeah.
of that?
My life didn't change at all because I was isolated anyway.
Yeah.
And in fact, the audiobook industry did extremely
Yeah,
well.
well, yep, god, yeah, it did.
It did. And I was really busy. But so you can't, first I said, "Oh, I don't really want to write another book. That makes," he said, "so tell jokes, sing songs, whatever, but tell the story." And I could hear Beamer saying, who was always trying to get me to write again, he said, I could hear his voice in my mind going, "You can't ignore Archbishop Desmond Tutu, just
No,
bloody
no.
do it, Alison." So I did. And so I wrote a show, the first one woman show I'd written since I found my birth mother. And I told the story. And I thought, but I don't want to do it on my own. And I had this Gary Schreiner's an Emmy award-winning composer, and I was saying, okay, what do I really want to say if I'm going to put myself through writing a book, which I hate?
You need to know there needs to be you need to know what your intention is. Yeah.
That's right. So I thought, what do I really want to say? And the answer came to me very quickly in a snippet of some lyrics for a song. And it was, don't waste your time. Life's short and you're alive now. Don't waste your time. I wanted to tell everybody, don't waste it because it could be gone just like that.
Mhm.
And how could I tell the story? And I wanted to talk about this incredible joy. And I realized that love didn't go anywhere. The body goes, but love doesn't.
No.
So I wrote, and I'd done my first show at the Soho Theatre in London,
Mm.
and they weirdly, around this time, reached out to say, "How you doing? What's going on?" And I said, "Well, funnily enough, I've got another show." And they said, "Oh, send it to us." So I did, and suddenly I'm up at the Soho Theatre in London. I'm on Women's Hour, and everything took off, and the show had music, had little bits of song in it, and now it's going to be a television special. We're shooting a TV comedy special next June,
I
and I've written a book. So then, oh, so after that, then I think, okay, then I wrote a follow-up book, which is really what this podcast is supposed to be promoting,
yeah.
I think, according to my. I'm
About
so
your
sorry.
book, Grief. No,
Yes,
we're
grief
getting there,
of
we're
com-
getting there, it's fine.
yeah, and it was wonderful doing this show because I got to play Bhima and myself and relive our love story. And people were coming from all over the country saying that they were completely relating to it. And nobody talks about, not a lot of people talk about grief. And I obviously don't care what I say. I think by talking about it openly, it opened the door for other people. And we'd all
Mm.
meet in the bar. And I'd say things like, did you have a sense of your loved one with you after they died? And one woman bursts into tears and she said, "Thank you for asking the question." And then another woman says, "I haven't told anybody this yet, but every night I lay the table and I have dinner with Wilf and we have a right old chat and he's been dead 4 years." And then everybody's talking and we're all sharing stories. And so I wrote this book, also called Grief Comedy.
Yeah. Show it up. There you
I'm
go.
very proud of it. I'm very proud of it. And it starts 6 weeks after Bhima died, when he shows up at my kitchen table determined to help me find love again. And it's imaginary, of course.
Mm.
Or is it?
How do you feel about finding love again?
I found it already with community.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
isolate anymore. But in
mm,
terms of romantic love, I will. I just haven't met him yet. I'm sure of it. I feel it. But I feel I had to finish this task first
yeah.
because it's taking off in a way because I think there's a need. I think what it's doing is it's helping people find hope in the midst of despair, whether that be the loss of a loved one or the loss of a country or the loss of
And a loss of
whatever.
yourself. Because sometimes
Yes,
people lose themselves, and it takes a lot for them to find who they are and what they want, and then they can move on to whatever the next stage is on their life. Some people don't realize. Some people don't know who they are.
that is true. That is really true. And it's very sad.
Mm,
And those are the people that I would want my story to reach
yeah, I
because
think it
it would
will.
be saying, don't waste your time.
Yeah,
Because this is it. And that's what sudden death does when you have a sudden loss of somebody. You suddenly go, what?
yeah.
So, okay, so then you go, each day you get to choose how you will spend it. Don't waste a minute because tonight might end it. And so I thought, if I can tell this story, which is really a love story, because Beamer and I had this amazing relationship, and it was a very funny relationship. He was extremely funny, and we just clicked. But it's a love story that doesn't stop at death because you remember
Well, you never
so
stop.
much.
Yeah, you don't stop loving someone just because they're no longer physically here.
Exactly.
It doesn't
Exactly.
end because they're in, to be blunt, because they're in the ground or in an urn.
Or
It doesn't
or
mean
if
it's
they're
over.
Hindu, as he was in the urn. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's true. you're so right. Now, here's my question for you. Do you think part of the reason that you have a continuing bond with the person or persons that you have who aren't actually physically around anymore, do you think part of it is because you're a writer and you use your imagination, you
Oh,
use that you have that gift and that ability to put aside the oh don't be ridiculous stuff and actually allow that kind of magical and mysterious connection to be. Do you think that might be partly why?
I've never thought of that before at all. I don't think so. I think I just grew up in a family where you just I suppose you're just told and you just grow up knowing that yes, the person may be gone, but their spirit, they are still there. And I think
Oh,
that's just how I grew up. So,
oh, how
yeah,
fantastic.
I don't think it's the writing, yeah, I can use my imagination. That's how I grew up. And I do believe that. I don't think their spirit has to go somewhere. You can't just
I totally
go.
agree with you. Now, this is really interesting, though, what you just said. That fascinates me. That's very unusual. It's certainly in. Were you raised in England?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what? So was it part of your family to talk about people being present? Because that's something that you've
Yes.
never. Yeah.
I
So
think
was
yeah,
that?
yeah, I would definitely say so. Definitely. I'm only just thinking about just I'm saying my family's from Grenada, and I just think Caribbean families in general, it's very much there's always talk about the dead and spirits,
Yeah.
things
I
like
love
that. So
that.
it's just part of life.
That's right.
Mm,
And that's what's changed everything for me to understand so much. But that's, I think it's wonderful. That's part of the culture you grew up in. I think it's very
mm.
healthy. And I've found here I am now writing about this. I never believed in, for me, a medium is a dress size.
Oh, don't get me wrong though. I'm very I'm trying the best way I don't believe in mediumship. I
okay,
believe in
that,
all yeah, I believe in all I believe in lots of things, but the mediumship stuff, when someone said, "I'm talking to your dead grandmother," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not too sure about that."
I don't find it very, I don't think we need a medium. I think
No!
if I want to know what, like my dad died, he's around all the time. Yeah, I know exactly what they'll. When I say around, I know what he'd say in a situation.
Yeah.
I know
I know what my
exactly
gran
what.
would say. I know exactly what my granddad would I know what they would say. I don't need Beatrice, whether she lives,
No,
sitting around a table to tell me
no, no,
sorry, I don't
no, nor do
sorry
I.
to all the Beatrices.
I admire each to his own, but I think
Yeah.
you have a connection. So some people would say you were one, but it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. Who knows? Who knows? If people are gonna reach us, it's going to be in our dreams. It's going to be in our imagination. But it just as
I
fast.
believe that.
And I just don't believe it's exactly what you believe. I believe in renewable energy, so that the body may go, but the love doesn't go anywhere. And I also really have a sense that there is an extraordinary, radiant light that we don't know about, and that who are we to say lucky them, they don't have to put up with all this nonsense that we
No, they
have to
can be
deal with.
stardust, Alison.
Yes.
I'm gonna just go through the rest of my day thinking that we're all stardust.
But we are
Yeah,
scientifically every living thing comes from stardust, and we forget, we think we humans are so important. We're really not. We're just part of this extraordinary living thing. And yeah. So anyway, so I'm very excited. So my book has just been picked by something I should know, but it's a big
sorry.
thing. Bookshop.org, I
Oh,
believe, said it's
bookshops.org. I love
one
how
of the
your life
most.
it's been picked. I just feel like this is how your life has been. It's been picked up by something. Someone's taken. Oh, it's off to Hollywood. Oh, I'm gonna be in Soho Theatre. Oh, I'm
But
doing stuff
it's got
audible.
But no, what's lovely is being called one of the most inspirational memoirs. So that's very good. And there's lots of people buying it, which is very good. So that's very exciting. And then I
It
did the
is.
audiobook myself, which
Of
was
course
actually,
you
I will
did.
tell you, as a writer, you are going to get this. Probably we've got to stop talking. You've probably got a life. I don't, so I can talk till the cows come home. But just to the audiobook, what I was able to do the final edit actually because I my publishing company published the audiobook,
Hmm.
and I as I was reading it I made some final edits then reading it aloud, which was pretty
Does
interesting.
it does it make you look at, when you are, because it's one thing writing it, because it's just that's you're just putting your thoughts down. But when you're reading it, so you're going through it again, you're reliving it again. Did it make you look at yourself and how you had seen your life and your relationship differently? Because you're now speaking it out loud.
Yeah, it just makes me miss him.
Oh.
That's the hard thing. And it's like they did Newsweek did I was in Newsweek this Saturday and and I'm going, it was fine. They asked me to write a piece. I did it. But then I opened it and I saw this picture of me and Bhima.
Hmm.
There was three of them and I couldn't move. I just miss him. It makes me miss him.
Yeah.
But I still think that Tutu is right in that it is helping a lot of people from everybody keeps saying it helps you find joy after loss and that it's life changing in some way, which I don't really understand why. I just think this was my job to produce this thing
Because
and I've done
sometimes
it.
the thing you do is not for you, it's for other people.
That's right.
I used that at the time.
And it may hurt, and it does hurt. But do you think
Yeah.
Desmond Tutu was going, oh, I don't really feel like going over those dead babies in Rwanda? He was crying all the friggin' time. He laughed a lot, but he also cried. And oddly enough, it's the same muscle. And so you just go, okay, so it's going to hurt, but keep it, just tell the truth.
Yeah.
And then what it does is it gives purpose to the tragedy,
Yeah.
and that's good. And also now we've got the television special and we've got it's fun and I love doing comedy, so I'm back.
I don't think you went anywhere. You
I was hiding.
you just keep transitioning to different things, but you never go anywhere.
That's probably true, but I'm back in the public eye more than
Yeah.
necessarily would choose, but you have to because you're not going to sell any books if you're
Well,
not,
you're not
right.
gonna sell any books if you're just closing the writing it and just closing the door. So,
Right,
that is
you look
true.
at you. How do you feel about your this is very brave and important what you're doing to do a
Oh,
podcast. Do you sometimes feel a bit exposed?
no, because I think it's because I don't think it's about me when
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
doing the
yeah.
podcast. 'Cause I
Yeah.
think it's about, "Oh, I'm giving a platform to whoever I'm talking to, my guests, so they can talk about their books, their career, their whatever, and hopefully whoever listens will find them." So, I don't
Yeah.
feel exposed. I know, and I said, because I call it a conversation, I just feel like I've always wanted it to
Yeah.
feel like it's just 2 people just having a chat, and whoever's listening feels like they're just eavesdropping on 2 people in a
It
pub.
is.
Just
Well, you've got a gift for this, and I think yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's why for me, even though it actually I like I keep doing it because it isn't for me. That I'm not doing
yeah,
this for me either. And that's there we go.
yeah. Alice, even though I don't even wanna stop talking to you because I love you, I think you're
It's,
amazing.
oh, it's fun to talk to you.
I have your
No, okay.
final I have your
Okay, yeah.
final questions to end the interview,
Yes.
which is a shame, but I don't even know why I'm even asking. Alison, but then again, are you an introvert or an extrovert or a hybrid of the 2?
Well, if the
Hmm,
truth is I'm an introvert, but I don't seem
see?
like one.
No, because I was like, I don't know why I'm asking, but I'm like, "No, let me ask because
Yeah.
you are." I knew you
If
were.
because an introvert is somebody that gets overwhelmed by large groups of people and would prefer to be alone or one on one. I need a lot of alone time.
Yeah.
And I find people quite exhausting. I love one-on-one conversations,
Mm,
however. And I'm so enjoying talking to you. But
and I'm
yes, I'm an
enjoying talking to
introvert,
you.
but I look like an extrovert, so
You
I'm
do.
a little tricky.
You present as an
Yeah,
extrovert, but
thank you. That's the word.
I just thought when I said I just thought, "No, she's not. She is definitely an introvert." Okay, so what challenge or experience, good or bad, in your life shaped you the most?
I think it has to be my adoption, doesn't it?
Mm, yeah.
My entire
I
life
can't
story
see
now.
how
So,
I can't see how it couldn't not be, because
but
it seems like everything changed from the minute you decided to find your birth mother. Oh, this is what I was gonna ask. Did you
oh,
ever, because it was the adoption papers when it says talking about your dad and the effect it would have on his dad's it would affect his dad's
yeah.
career. Did you ever discover what that was?
Oh, he was a legend in his own mind, I think.
I just find it not crazy, fascinating. That is the information they would put on the in the papers. Like the reason why. I suppose the
Well, it was
why.
the birth. They'd interviewed her and they'd asked her. So this was her
Right.
take on it. And I think that this was he was married
Oh, okay.
and they were actually in love with each other. But
Yeah.
and it was true that his wife at the time said that she would ruin his life and sue him for bigamy if he went off with my birth mother. So I later found that out. So there was something in it. I think it was a short way of
Mm.
saying that he would never be able to run for office if this came out.
Isn't it funny how the world's changed? Because you look at the world around, well, if you look at politics, you look at who's running the world, and you look at the things they've done, and whereas before something like this would have ruined someone, whereas now it's a badge of honor. Like nothing ruins people anymore
Accept themselves.
except themselves.
But I think that's interesting. Yes, no, everything's changed, and knowing what I know, I'm really happy that I did get raised by my parents
Yeah.
because I think it would have been too much. I think I had two very creative, brilliant birth parents. They were very impressive. It just brilliant creatively and very self-involved. And I got this love and attention and a base that I needed in order to be able to live a balanced life now. And frankly, I've never been happier. Despite this loss of Bhima,
Yeah.
I'm deeply happy now.
I'm so pleased for you. Okay, so even though you are deeply happy, I am going to ask you if you could go back to if you could go back to when you were 25 years old and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Trust yourself. Don't
Yeah.
second guess your instincts. I did what I wanted to do. I always have.
Yeah.
But I used to go, oh, am I doing the right thing? Whereas
Mm,
now I call it my Noah, my Knower. But I just said, get still, just shh. What's the right thing in this particular situation? And I know. I don't always know immediately, but I know. And I think I would just say, don't doubt that instinct.
yeah.
That's who you are. And so those people you mentioned earlier, you said there are some people who don't know they are who they
Mm,
are. I would say to them, you do. Just get still
yeah.
and really ask yourself, who am I? What do I really want? What am I supposed to do here? And you will get the answer. I think the problem is the iPhone, but that's another subject.
But
Uh,
it's
uh,
not you're not wrong. There's so much going on around us. There's so much
yes,
distraction. Even before we was talking like sitting down to write. Yeah, I can sit down to write, but and I have to switch everything off unless other than my music. But I can get distracted easily, and that's just life. You're not giving yourself the opportunity to be still and know yourself, because there's so much going on around you, and even in your hand with your phone.
bingo.
Mm,
And it's deliberately designed to addict us.
yeah,
And we do have a choice. We can always put the phone down. But
yeah,
look how hard that is. How
yeah.
hard is it? And but this is our life. This is our precious life. Oh, we're giving it away. We're allowing it to go. And that's where I say, no, well, let's not. Let's say, actually, you know what? I'm going to spend a day without it. And the difference, and I agree with you, I think we're assaulted, the kids especially. God,
Everything is on. When I think about my niece and she shows me like all her school work, I mean, in terms of assignments and homework and how she done and stuff, that it's all on an app. And I'm like, where's the one-to-one conversation with the teacher to say, this is how you've done. Have you done your homework? This is why your homework may have been wrong. I was thinking of Mary Oliver. the poet, and
Yeah.
she says, "What are you going to do with your one precious life?"
That one wild and precious life.
Precious life, that's
That's
it.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can go, and people don't know unless they've experienced it, how
Mm,
quickly it can go. And in a way, that's the gift, because then you start living intentionally and you go,
yeah,
ooh, I've got another day here. What am I going
yeah.
to do with it?
What are you going to do with your one wild and precious life? Alison, I think I have an idea what you might say. I like to ask, what is your non-writing tip for writers?
Oh, that's very easy. Just do it. Just do it. Don't take workshops. Don't ask your friends. Don't second guess. Just do it. The writers will come up, myself included, with all kinds of, oh, I've got to do this first. I've got to do some more research. Or
Yeah,
blah,
yeah,
blah, blah, blah. Just do it. I write it on napkins for people when they ask me, what do you think? I give them on a napkin. Just do it. And then sometimes when their book's published, they go, hey, just do it.
yeah.
It's
There's
a
a
shame
lot in
that
that
Nike
Nike
coined the.
slogan.
It's the Nike
And
philosophy. Yeah.
no, but it's a philosophy, but you know what? It's correct. Just do it. And finally, Alison Larkin, even though I do not want to stop talking to you, where can listeners find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at Alison Larkin Presents with one L in Alison Larkin Presents. They can find me via my website at alisonlarkin.com with one L in Alison. And they can find me in Newsweek. It's just on Saturday. They can see pictures of Bhima if they want to. And they
Oh,
just have to
I've
Google
seen him. You
Alison
look very
Larkin Bhima.
happy,
He's
the
very
pair of you.
handsome.
Yeah,
I know.
you were good
Yeah,
together.
we were.
Oh,
And we were. And to have had that,
yeah.
some people never
Some
get
people,
it.
no,
And
very
that's
true.
my main point. And it's if they can have that, lose it, and not only want to live, but live more fully than ever, then of course I'll risk love again. And I wish that's the other thing I would say to my 25-year-old self. I'd say just take the risk.
Mm,
Because what's the worst that can happen? This is the worst that can happen. And I'm really okay.
you're
I
doing
miss him.
okay.
But isn't it all about in life? Isn't it about we keep going? Maybe when I do this, I'll be happy for the rest of my life. There'll never be any pain.
Yeah,
There's pain. That's life. It's
that's
like there's
life.
winter. And then you learn to accept it and you go, okay, do I want to live a shut off life with no pain or no joy, or a full life with both?
Mm. A full life with both, I think, is the way to go.
I think for you too. I want to know about your. Anyway, I suppose we have to stop talking, but I do want to read you.
We'll
I'm very
talk after.
interested in your books. If I could read one of your books, and
Oh,
which one, knowing what you know of me, things I've spilled my entire life on your show, which would it be?
oh God, I don't know. If you want to start from the beginning of the series, of so if you like the crime fiction, then you can
I
start
do.
with the Jigsaw Man. Yeah, you can start with the
The
Jigsaw Man.
Jigsaw Man.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then work
I
your way
can't.
through.
I will get the Jigsaw Man. And will you
Right.
read this Grief a Comedy?
No,
That's
God,
mine.
I am.
It's short.
Listen. It's
Very
fine.
short.
I'm gonna listen to the audiobook. I want to hear
That's
you.
a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
actually
wanna
people
hear
really
you.
love it. Yeah, yeah. The audio. It's
Yeah.
very short. This is not a subject that needs padding. But I'm coming over, by the way, to England. I'm at
Okay.
the Oxford Literary Festival in March, and
Oh, good.
so
We will
yeah.
put the details in the show notes so everyone can find out
Okay.
where you are. But I'm going
Yeah.
to officially say to you, only
Yes.
officially, because we'll talk after, but officially say
Yes.
to you, Alison Larkin, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation.
Thank you so much for allowing me in. I've had a really good time talking with you.
Thank you so much for watching the Conversation podcast. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you'd like to catch up on more conversations, you'll find them linked on your screen now. And you can also listen to the podcast on your favourite platform. See you there. Bye.